First up at 5 o'clock, could all executions in Arizona soon be carried out by a firing squad? That idea is in a bill that made it through a House committee this week.
It is a controversial method, to be sure, but would it be more effective than the current lethal injections that have had issues in the past? True crime correspondent Brianna Whitney shows us what this would actually look like. I think a lot of people have questions how it would really work.
Yeah, questions, also a lot of opinions on this. People kind of feel one way or the other on this. It really is a means of execution that's been in the headlines more and more lately. Just today, a South Carolina man has chosen death by firing squad for his planned execution in 2 weeks. Arizona also has its first execution in 2 years next month, but by lethal injection. In the near future, it could be a lot more violent and graphic.
112 inmates sit on Arizona's death row. If a bill that's now passed out of committee makes it to voters and becomes the law, those inmates would be put to death by firing squad.
It really does bring the reality of executions. It hits hard. And I don't know that Arizona is ready for a firing squad.
Barrett Marson is the former public information officer for the Department of Corrections. As it stands now, Arizona inmates are executed by lethal injection, which Marson says is often viewed as more humane than what would be a violent, bloody, and loud death.
I witnessed 4 executions by lethal injection. And quite frankly, you didn't even know the inmate was deceased.
But others say lethal injections are flawed. Arizona front and center of that debate.
I counted about 660 times he sort of gasped, kind of looked like as if he was trying to breathe or catch air.
In 2014, a botched lethal injection execution of Joseph Wood caused him to gasp for air for 2 hours before dying, a procedure that should have only taken about 10 minutes. That led to an 8-year hiatus on executions. Governor Katie Hobbs put a temporary stop on executions for nearly 2 years when she took office to review the process. Those will pick up again next month when Aaron Gunches is set to die, an inmate who wants to be executed. It's for those reasons Marson says a firing squad could guarantee immediate death with less room for error.
And they're sharpshooters, so they don't miss. Got to be law enforcement. And it's people who would be on, your SWAT team type, your tactical teams.
As it stands now, only 5 states allow firing squad. The last execution by it was in Utah in 2010. If this bill passes, it would also give the 10 death row inmates who committed crimes before November of 1992 the choice of firing squad or gas chamber, losing the choice of lethal injection they have now.
No one has picked the gas chamber. And if you do not pick between lethal injection and gas chamber, it's automatically lethal injection.
Hobbs hired a retired federal judge to review lethal injection protocols. He recommended the state start using the firing squad, and late last year, Governor Hobbs fired him, citing she lost confidence in him as he was hired to review protocols under the existing and current law. If this does pass both chambers of the legislature, it would go before voters next year, and it would go to the voters. Interesting.
Is it guaranteed to not miss? I guess, how do you make sure that you don't miss, or do several people fire? Do you know how it would work?
I was reading up on this today. There's a couple states that do different ways. Some of them have 5 different people. One of them has a live round, the other have dummy rounds, and then they all fire so that they don't know who actually had that fatal bullet. Yep. But there was another state, I believe, that had 3 people that do it. Everybody has live rounds and points at the same direction. So I think it can vary, and that would then be up to the state too. If we did pass it and that did become the legal way to execute here in Arizona, what would that look like? What would we have? Multiple, 5, 3, 4? Who would be the firing squad? How do you become part of the firing squad? All of those questions are up in the air.
Yeah, and some people who are even against the death penalty say this could be the best way for society to reconcile, like, what it really means to take a life.
Right, there's that.
For that.
Exactly right. Yeah, is it more humane? Is it less humane? You've got people on both sides of the aisle on that, so you make a good point.
All right, we'll see what happens. Thanks, Brianna.